Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And again, I'd like to thank you and Ranking Member Engel for your enduring commitment to ensure that this committee continues to provide oversight on the nuclear deal and remains engaged and vigilant on all of Iran's troubling activities. For much of the week, Secretary Kerry has been quoted in the press as proclaiming that Iran is open for business, and that, as a U.S. official, is quoted as saying, it is in fact not U.S. sanctions, but Iran's bad banking practices, along with its ballistic missile launches, support for terrorism, and human rights abuses, including, I might add, a long history of arresting foreign businessmen that make it an unfriendly business climate. And I would agree that every single company that is considering doing new business in Iran should be deeply concerned by and should consider all of these factors before making any deal. The Washington Post yesterday reported that fear of running afoul of continued U.S. sanctions for all of these other bad behaviors is preventing banks and businesses from dealing with Iran. I hope that in his travels, Secretary Kerry is making clear to our allies that not only will those sanctions remain in place and be enforced with vigor, but they too should be enforcing these sanctions as they are not covered under the JCPOA. Let's be clear here. If Iran wants business, it's up to the regime to change its behavior. Now, the Washington Post also reported that detention of foreign citizens is another reason businesses are and should be wary of re-entering Iran. And I would urge these companies to give deep consideration to the fact that the longest-held American hostage in history disappeared in Iran. Robert Levinson went missing in Iran on March 9, 2007, and he is still not home. And more importantly, Iran is still not providing information as to his whereabouts. And I hope that Secretary Kerry has raised the issue of Bob Levinson in every one of his meetings with foreign banks and foreign businesses. And I hope that every single oil company, airplane manufacturer, construction company that meets with Iranian officials raises Bob Levinson's case. I hope that every one of these businesses, as they contemplate their challenges to doing business in Iran, contemplate the fact that Bob Levinson has been missing for 9 years and makes this an issue in those discussions. And they should be demanding that if Iran wants foreign investment to return, that it should begin to prove itself a responsible actor by fulfilling its oft-stated pledge of cooperating and providing information on Bob's whereabouts and in helping to return him to his family. And I might add, I hope that in the reports in the press that our great media who are following these issues so closely, whether or not businesses want to re-engage in Iran, will also raise in their discussions the fact that Bob Levinson is the longest-held American hostage and that Iran has not provided the necessary information to help bring him home. Mr. Dewitz, I understand that it may be unusual business practice for a company to engage with a government in areas that are commonly left to diplomats. But why should all of these companies looking to re-enter Iran, why should they care about Iran's human rights abuses? Why should they care about Iran's support for terrorism? And why, to follow on my opening statement, why should they be concerned about an American who's been went missing in Iran more than 9 years ago?
Congressman Deutch, I think for two fundamental reasons. Reason number one is that the next hostage that could be taken is them. The CEO or the director of business development for the Middle East for a major oil company or major financial institution could be the next hostage because Iran takes hostages as part of its standard operating procedure. And the second reason is because these international companies have reputations, and those reputations are worth billions of dollars. And to have a reputation of doing business with a hostage-taking, genocide-threatening, nuclear-building, missile-testing, Holocaust-denying regime is just bad fundamentally for business.
Mr. Chairman, I would, before yielding back, I would just say again, the members of this committee are probably tired of hearing me talk at every single committee hearing, every meeting we have on Iran, about my constituent who needs to be returned to his family. But it's just inconceivable to me that all of the stories we've been reading this week have focused on whether or not Iran should be open for business, on whether or not other countries should worry about sanctions and going back into do business deals in Iran, without mentioning Bob Levinson's name. I don't understand it. There is an American who's been missing for more than 9 years. Everybody should care about Bob Levinson. And I yield back.